Hi everyone, today I'm going to be discussing my water casting technique. On the left we have traditional water casting whereby you melt a large amount of metal and dump it into a bucket of water and you get really very organic and varied shapes that you can use in your pieces. Some are large, some are medium, some are small. Nothing that's replicable. These are really one-of-a-kind pieces. And then you also get some unique non-usable pieces, such as this large one here, which is very cracked and too fragile or too jagged to be worn as a jewelry piece. Now we move on to my water casting technique, which can be done using a butane torch. This is sterling silver. The shapes are all fairly uniform. They have a bit of a floral shape to them, very even. And the one on the right here is Argentium sterling silver, a little bit rounder, a little bit softer than the sterling silver. Both are done using a butane torch and can be done in spaces where you're not allowed to have bottled gases like oxygen, acetylene, and propane in the house. At the end of the demonstration, I'll also include a project that you can use your water castings with. Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be showing you that much promised video on water casting sterling silver. So I have here a 14 gauge sterling silver rod and I'm holding it with pliers to protect my hands from getting burnt. And I also have on a pair of gloves for just in case. So everywhere I've read, when it came to making head pins, I was told you need to use fine silver because sterling silver won't ball up or it won't ball up nicely. And that is a complete misconception and fallacy. Sterling silver actually does ball up quite well, and I'm going to show you here soon. So what I'm using is 14 gauge wire and it's square, and I've found that this is the best wire for doing this. The 16 gauge is a bit too small and the 12 gauge is a bit too big, so it doesn't ball up enough. So you need to have a thick enough rod that the metal will ball up to a fairly good size before you get a nice shape. But once you have your wire and you have it at the right height over the water dish, which is just a small dish of water, and I'm holding it about 6 inches above, and once you have that dialed, you are going to get consistent shapes of the little cup shaped pieces that people seem to like for their jewelry. So I'm just going to fire up my torch. So I'm going to be heating from the bottom up about 1.5 inches. And you'll see shortly here how nicely that sterling silver starts to ball up. So there it goes. And then eventually the weight of the silver on the end, I'm just going to pull the torch away so you can see. So the weight of the silver is going to actually pull that ball off the end. So just gently heat this up again. And about 6 inches above the water, and it's going to let go any second now. There it goes. So that one kind of splatted, and it's just because I interrupted the process here. So I'm just going to ball up the next one. See? Okay, so that one turned out good. Another nice one, and they come out looking very organic, almost like little flower petals. It's quite nice. The Argentium silver is not going to produce kind of randomly shapes like with the sterling silver. It's going to be a little bit more precise, more cup shaped, more round, less looking as though there's flower petals. I'm going to take the height up just a little bit higher here and see what happens to the shape when it falls in there. So it does get a bit deeper if you pull the height up a bit more. The petals or the little shapes do get a little bit deeper in depth. So definitely play around with it. This is new to me as well now. This is a new discovery that the height is going to make a big difference. So closer to the water and it's going to pancake, and higher up it is going to create more deeper shapes. Just shut that off. Okay, I'm just going to shut the video off and I'll be right back after I get these out of the water. Okay, so I've got these little organic pieces out of the water, and see if I can get this in focus here. Come around. I'm just going to tilt this down here. Okay, and get it in focus. There we go. Okay, so this piece here is very flat, and that's the one that was cast at a lower height, and then that was a bit higher. These ones here were cast at about 6 inches, so you can see there's some cupping to them, and they're really organic looking as well too. They have some nice randomy shapes to them. And then these ones were cast from a much higher height, so you can see that the metal has had a chance to cool, and then on the way down, on the drop or the descent, and then it creates a much deeper cup. So definitely play around with the heights that you drop it from. But again, you're looking at some really consistent little components that you can use on your jewelry pieces, and quite a bit of fun to make. You don't need to have a large torch. You can just use a little butane torch, and you can do this if you're living in an apartment. It's safe to do. You're not going to be dealing with compressed gases, which will get you in trouble with your landlord. And I really enjoy making this, making these little things. They're kind of fun and repetitive and quick to make. So in a couple minutes you'll have, if you have a long enough piece of wire, you can have probably hundreds of these little components. So I just made a few extra castings from this leftover piece of the wire that I had, and pretty interesting when I was holding them above 12 feet or 12 inches, like over a foot, and they became thinner and more jagged as well, and definitely more random, like a casting, direct water casting would be, instead of like these little petal shapes here, which I quite like, and they look more like a little flower. These ones are definitely thinner and deeper, but I do like these ones. So these ones are done at about between 6 to 8 inches seems to be ideal for that shape, and then anything over 12 inches will get you these little thinner shapes. But I do quite like the little flowers. So it's up to your decision what you want to cast, and again, play around with it, have fun, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, just to try my theories on the whole size of the ball thing and that, I've got some 16 gauge wire here. I'm just going to ball up the end to the point that it falls off in the water, and then let's see what happens with it. I'm going to hold it up around 6. Okay, so forget everything I just said about you needing to have 14 gauge wire. Really, any gauge wire is going to probably give you whatever you're looking for. Now this is the Argentium here. This is the 16 gauge. So you can see it's a lot rounder and softer than the sterling silver is, but also creates a nice little cup shape. Let's just get a focus on that. And deeper as well too. So play around with the wire, play around with the different gauges, and see what works for you. So far, everything's working for me today, so that's a good day. Okay, stay tuned for the project. First step to this project is you're going to be adding, oh my gosh, I'm actually fluxing. So I'm just going to add a little bit of flux to the back of this component. And I have some stick solder here, which it's medium. And I'm just going to add a little sweat soldering to the back of this piece here. This is a really terrible angle for me with the camera anyway. Okay, let's hope for the best here. Okay, there we go. That's fast. I really like stick soldering. It's you don't have to worry about chasing pallions around. So I'm just going to get the ring shank set up. I've got this in my a third hand or a pair of what are those, forceps clampy things. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so it's just a little offset ring band made out of square wire that's been rolled down a little bit to give it a bit more of a rectangular shape, and that is going to be going on like that, except I'm going to be balancing it on top of the ring shank. You'll see in a second. So now I've got the ring shank balanced on top of the component, and I have my soldering forceps balanced on top of a little piece of copper. And now I am going to heat that up and solder it together. If you're not into batshit crazy soldering techniques, don't follow this, use your own. And I'm just going to get this little piece of copper out of the way here. So I'm heating everything, including the forceps. And nothing has been fit together. The ring is like seriously just sitting on top of that little component. And just wait for it to get a bit orangey. And once you have it kind of all heated up, it's getting closer, then you can start focusing on the bottom. And do a quick little check with my optivisors, and that looks soldered. Okay, so let's see what happens when we lift this up, and there it is. The little ring. Now you can finish it in any way you want. You can add a gemstone pearl. If you're an enamelist, you can fill that little cup with enamel. And that's it for me for the day. Hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for the next one. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and my batshit crazy soldering techniques. Again, Argentium is probably one of the nicest metals to work with, as long as you're not manipulating it or taxing it with soldering picks and forceps and tweezers while it's red hot. It's going to be an absolute dream to work with. It is definitely one of the best metals that I've ever worked with.